Hi guys, welcome and thanks for being here. I'm sure you guys have already got a lot of great sessions that you've gotten to see. Today we're going to talk about shifts, and in Microsoft Teams, shifts is basically we were just chatting about the fact that it's basically an app that's living in Microsoft Teams. And it's been around for a while, and a lot of people don't even know it exists. And so I like to bring it up just because it isn't something that a lot of people just realize is there automatically. And it used to be known by a former name a long time ago called Staff Hub. And so sometimes people will say, wait, I used to use this thing that was kind of like it. And yeah, absolutely. It used to be called Staff Hub. So if you happen to see that anywhere, I just put that in there. So if you happen to see it, it is kind of the same thing as Teams or as Shifts. So here's a little bit about me. I have been doing this for quite a while. I am the founder and CEO of Smarter Consulting. So we are a Microsoft partner. We do basically Microsoft stuff all day long. So everything from implementing intranets to training to custom solutions. And we do just kind of a little bit of everything. We're not limited to the Microsoft stack, but we definitely are pretty heavy-handed in the Microsoft stack. I also am Microsoft Regional Director, and so I'm part of that program, and I'm an MCT. So we basically, like I said, spend about half of our time doing and about half of our time training overall. If you guys ever have any questions, feel free to follow me. Feel free to, so my Twitter handle's up here, my email's up here, find me on LinkedIn. A lot of people will have questions afterwards. I'll do my best to answer them if I can, but feel free just to reach out to me if you ever need anything or have any questions. If you need any help in your organization with setting anything up, like maybe having shifts set up in your organization, you can reach out and we'd be happy to help you with that. All right, so Microsoft Shifts. I'm just going to give this little proviso. Remember we said this is a little bit, it's the old Staff Hub that's been moved into a Teams app. If for whatever reason, I just like to put this in here, if you happen to have Staff Hub before and you wanted to be able to migrate your stuff over, there are some ways to do that. So I just like to put these links here just in case somebody needed that and wanted to be able to move that over from Staff Hub into Shifts. I don't run across this much anymore, especially since it's been there a while, but I still like to leave it in there just in case I happen to run across somebody who needs it. And that's in the deck, and you'll get that afterwards. So if you ever need those links, you'll have it. So here's a few things that you need to know. I'll do a demo at the end, so we'll switch over to that at the end. But I want to talk to you kind of about some of the rules before we get in there so that you kind of know what you're playing with. So the whole idea of Microsoft Shifts, I want to be really clear. The idea of Microsoft Shifts is it's a very simple application to do what it needs to do. It's not designed to be like this big integrated piece of software. It is designed to keep first-line workers connected and in sync. That's the point of it. So if you think of it kind of like Planner as a task management system and that's it, Microsoft Shifts is a shift management system. That's it. That's all it does. I want to say that's all it does. It's a very nice piece of software. It does a lot of cool things, but it's not designed to be bigger than that. It is designed to be a shift management system. Managers can then create, update, and manage shift schedules for one or more teams. So here's the thing, how it works. So there is one shifts schedule, so one thing in shifts for every team in Teams. See how many times we can say Teams in this. I'm sure how many people have talked about Teams a few million times today. So for every team in Teams, you can have one shift schedule, and only the owner can set it up initially. Once the shift schedule has been set up for that team, it's there. You can't make another one, but it'll sit there and basically be associated with that particular team until the end of time. And then anybody on that team can have access to that shift schedules in Shift. It is built mobile first. Here's my opinion. This is an opinion piece. The opinion is that if you are trying to use this as a worker, you are probably going to get an easier interaction if you're on the mobile app. If you are a manager, I would recommend that you do it on your PC or in the app in general. So the mobile app itself is designed to show you your schedule, your information, and the one that's not on the mobile device, so like on the browser or on the PC or even on a Mac, is going to be bigger. You're going to have more buttons. It's a little bit easier for the managers behind the scenes to be able to work with. So I mean, you can do things in the mobile app, but it's just not quite as easy. Okay, so I know you're like, really, there's more stuff? Yes. So there's a few provisos in Shifts that you need to know before kind of getting into it. So Shifts is available in all Office 365 subscription. As far as I know, and we were just talking about this. I need a t-shirt that says "Prove me wrong." If anybody'd like to prove me wrong, I'm open to that. As far as I know, I don't think it's in the government cloud community yet. Every time I do this presentation, I reach out and ask if anybody knows it's there, only because I don't have an access to a GCC tenant to be able to check that. But as far as I know, it's not there, and it's not available in Teams free as well. So it's basically available in any other subscription of Teams. You will be able to get to Shifts, but if it's a free version, you won't, and if it's the government version, you won't be able to see it either. Another thing to note is that inside of Shifts, ooh, good. Yay. So there's, it looks like Marie says I work in GCC with Shifts and Teams. Is there just different features? Well, that's a very good question. I said, prove me wrong. I would love to get feedback. I'll have to check with some people I know and see if I can get some information about that. As far as I know, it should be the same, but like I said, I didn't realize it had gotten out yet, so I will update my presentation to reflect that. Thanks for the update. So as far as time blocks and shifts, all time blocks are equal. So when you think about what we're using the time block for, it's just a block. Think about like an Excel cell, right? It's just a block of time that represents something. The big thing to remember is that basically everybody can see all of the time blocks. There's no secrets. So it's not like one of the blocks can be marked as private, like on your calendar. So everybody can see all the time blocks. On mobile, what happens is you see your own shifts. And so this is why I say not on mobile. They'd have to dig for it, right? So they have to get into the schedule to be able to see it. On the mobile device, you're seeing your own shift, whereas in the full version of Teams in Shifts, you can see all the time blocks. And if you can see all the time blocks, then you can see what's on the time blocks. What's really funny to me is because all shifts or blocks are equal, you can actually swap a time off with a shift block. So for example, if I have a shift that is to be worked and somebody else has marked a shift that's a time off block, I can ask to then trade those time blocks. Just remember, time off displays everything. So maybe be careful about what you put in your time blocks in terms of notes, because if you don't want somebody to see it, they will. As far as I know, these are the things you cannot do as of now. You cannot schedule reoccurring shifts. What you can do is create whatever you want, and then you can copy and paste, and you can actually drag them just like in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's not hard to make them, but you can't schedule something that say reoccurs Monday through Friday or weekly or every Friday or anything like that. You would have to simply copy and paste it onto the shifts schedule and then just drag or copy if you want it to be on a different one. You also cannot add guest users into shifts. So the only people who can use shifts have to have a license, and they have to be part of your licensed tenant. There used to be an out-of-the-box first-line worker policy in the Teams Admin Center. I believe that they've removed the frontline or the out-of-the-box first-line worker policy, but you can still make a first policy. That's why I left this in here. So in the Teams Admin Center, you can create your own custom policy that shows people certain buttons. So let's say, for example, we wanted to allow first-line workers to use this, and the only button we want them to have access to in Teams is shifts. You can do that. You can create a policy. You can apply that policy to certain people. The only thing that I would recommend is that you test it out before applying it to the people you want to apply it to, because it takes a little while for it to kind of switch back and forth. And sometimes it's very confusing if I go into Teams and I don't have the buttons I expect, and it takes a while for that to come back around. And if you guys have any questions about this, feel free to pop them in chat, and I'll, once again, answer them as best I can. So these are just kind of the things, the stumbling blocks and the things that I've kind of, come across as I've been playing around with it and implementing it for different clients. So how to find shifts, and don't worry, I'll walk you through a demo at the end. But basically, if you are on the browser or the application version, it is under your apps. So if you click on the ... at the bottom on the left-hand navigation, and all you have to do is type in shifts in the search, or you can click on the more apps and then search for it. It should just pop right up. And then I'll show you how you can pin it and keep it right on your left navigation to be able to have access to it. If you're on your mobile device, it's just under the same type of thing. It's under more apps, and you can simply pull it up and it'll be right there. Typically, shifts is one of the ones that's in the default. Once you click on that ... or more apps, it should be right there. If it's not for any reason, you can just search for it, and then you can click on it and it will pop it open for you. I always like to just provide this to people just because a lot of people don't know it exists. But if you'd like more information about Office apps in general, you can go to support.office.com/training, and you can get cute little videos and walkthroughs for any of the Office 365 applications, including Teams. And so if you just kind of are like, I can't remember how to go here, I can't remember how to do that, or you need some screenshots, this is an excellent resource for you to go out and just get some information. All right, I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to share my screen. Let's hold just 1 second. All right. So, any questions about the provisos or the stuff in advance before we switch over to the demo?
There's nothing gone into the chat so far, Sharon.
I don't see anything. All right, no problem. All right, can you see my screen okay, Alan?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So when I'm in Teams, and I'm just in the browser right here in Teams, you can see I'm logged into Teams. And we talked about this being right here. So when we click on this ... over here on our left navigation, you can see that if I click on that ... if it doesn't show up, you can simply type in shifts. Obviously, it's already installed, so I don't need to. But if I type in shifts, it will come up right there. You're just going to simply click on it, and then what will happen is it will come over here on the left. To be able to keep it on your left navigation, if you didn't Teams, you can right-click on any application over here, and there's a pin option, and you can pin and unpin apps to that left navigation bar right here. Like I said, the other option is you can create a policy, or you can update your global policy to include the shifts button on the left-hand side, so that it will always be there for your users, or for the users that are involved in that particular policy. But for you, if you just don't have it yet and you want to play with it and check it out, you can just simply open it, install it, and then pin it to your left-hand navigation. Once we click on shifts, remember I told you how it's going to line up with a team. So if we go look at our teams, you can see that we've got all these teams in here. And so we've got things like HR and corporate challenge. And anything that I'm an owner of, I can have a shift to go with that. So here's all these things I've made. I'm going to go back to shifts. Notice that by default, we just are on the last shift that we were on when I worked in it last. If I click up here, there's a little hamburger menu. And it says when I hover over it, create or choose or create a schedule. So this is inside of the shifts application. I have my own little menu. If I click on that, it's going to tell me these are the current shift schedules that have already been created. And these line up 1-for-1 with teams that are already existing in my Teams application. If I wanted to create more, down here at the bottom, I can click this new schedule. But notice that it will only let me create shifts schedules for things that I haven't created a shift schedule for and that I am an owner of. So if I'm an owner, you can see that I'm allowed to create them. If they are existing and don't have a shift schedule, but I am not an owner, I do not have a create button for those. So I get that option. And then if I wanted to add one, I would simply click create, it would say okay, and it would set it up for me. Once I've created it, I can then access the shift schedules that I am a member of that team. So if I'm an owner or a member of a team and a shift schedule has been created for me, I will have the option to then look at different schedules. In addition to that, there are a few things that are different for owners. We look at owners and teams as managers of the shift schedule, and we look at members of the team as users of the shift schedule. So you can go in here and you can look at these different schedules and you can switch them back and forth, and then you can go look at the schedule itself. Once we're in the shift schedules, we have a lot of different pieces and parts. So you can see up here right now, I'm viewing this as a daily schedule. You can see all these different days. I can see it a month at a glance. So I'm looking at the whole month right here, and you can see there's a lot of things that are happening. So first of all, this is the month that I'm looking at. It highlights the days that are available. I can move through the months. I can go to today, just like I can in a lot of Microsoft applications. It's going to show me the hours that are assigned right here to my workers. And notice right now, none of my workers have anything assigned to them. So you can see the workers in each group. Here's the days. It's also going to roll up the number of hours to each day in this particular view. And then right under that, I can add notes to each day for this particular schedule. So if it's a holiday, or if I'm going to need extra work because there's something extra going on, I can add notes that will ultimately be exported into a report for me. I can have as many groups in a shift schedule as I want. So people are like, well, I can only have one shift schedule. Yes, you can only have one shift schedule, but you can have multiple groups. So for the purposes of this example, I have built out for HR, maybe we have an on-call group that is there to answer people's questions and respond to things. And I want to make sure that somebody's covering my support group at different times. And so in this case, we have an AM group that works the morning shift. We have a PM group that works the afternoon shift. And then we have an after hours group that works maybe the late shift. And then maybe in addition to that, we also want to have an on-call group for overnight. And so I've just defined this here. You can add as many groups as you want right up here at the top where it says add group. I can click on this. It will add a group down here to the bottom. I can then click on the ... I can rename this group to anything I want. I can reorder it so maybe it's higher in the list, or I can get rid of it if I don't need it. Once I've added my group in here, I can add people to each individual group because maybe I don't want everybody on every group. And so I can click this add people to the top right of any of the groups that I have made. And one of the things to note is when I click on add member, it's only going to give me the people that are part of that team. So you must be a member of the team to be able to be added to the shift schedule that's associated to that particular team. This is where it gets a little goofy. So you're like, well, wait a minute, I have an HR team, but I'm using a shift schedule and I don't want the people in the shift schedule to be part of that team. So you're going to need to create another team so that you can have the right people in that team to be on the shift schedule. So I see a question, can private channels have separate shifts or just one shift per team? That's a good question. I don't know if that's been added or not. We can try it though and find out. So let's go to a team and let's go into our HR. And we've got a private team set up right here. I don't believe that we can make it here because this is an HR internal private channel. And I think if we go to shifts and we try to make a new one, let's find out if that's an option now. Oh, look, it is. So there we go. Yes, we can make one for private channels. So if we go in here and create this, just remember, even though it's a private channel, they still have to be in the team itself to have access to that private channel. But now we can, and notice this is limited to only a few people that are part of that private channel. Good question. Let's go back to our primary one. So once we've added our groups, like I said, we can add our people and we can add anybody to the group that is part of the team. And then there's two options you have. So this is all driven by settings behind the scenes. So if we go to the settings for this group or for this shift schedule, there's some things that we can define for how we use it. So first of all, you noticed when I set up the shift schedule, it said, what time zone are you in? So you can select your time zone. But then after the fact, if you're like, oops, I did the wrong one, it's right here in the settings where you can change the time zone. You can decide what day of the week your schedule starts on, because some people go Sunday to Saturday, some people go Monday to Sunday. So you can select what day of the week your schedule starts on. You can, remember I told you there's no reoccurring shifts, but you can copy shifts. You can decide, do the activities that I have included get copied with it or not, depending on what the setting is. You can decide if you want to allow people to see open shifts. So that first thing at the top, the open shifts, I'll walk through that in a minute. But if you want to basically say, we have 5 open shifts for this day and people can go in and look at them, they can request them and things like that, then you can have this on. If you want to only assign shifts to people and you do not want to put open shifts that people can pull from, you can turn this off and the open shifts feature will simply be hidden from the view and they will not be able to pull those on. I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. For requests, when people request time, remember I told you there's time off blocks. These are the out of the box options that come for the time off blocks. You can add your own time off options if you want. So you simply say custom, tell what it is that we want to be able to add in here. So maybe we're going to give them a floating holiday. And then we can pick whatever icon we want to select to go with that. And then now when we do the drop down of time off, that will be in one of the options. If we don't like certain ones, so maybe this custom time off one doesn't really make much sense, we can just remove it from our list of drop downs. And this is just the drop down list that they will choose when selecting what time off they want to allocate to this. You could make it all one. Could have just one option, time off, or you can make it specific so you know why they're off. It also does have a time clock enabled into it, and all you're going to do is basically say whether or not you want to use that whenever you set up the schedule, and if you ever want to change that, the settings for that are right here. You can see that time clock is turned on. One of the options that you have that I think is kind of cool is you can use geolocation settings. If I turn this on, they must be within a very close distance of the location we've defined before they're allowed to clock in and clock out. This kind of goes to that point where we don't want somebody clocking in before they leave their home and then driving to work and having 30 minutes on the clock because they could clock in before it was their time to clock in. If we say nope, they have to be really close to these coordinates before they're able to clock in, you can turn this on. You can get the coordinates. And then what will happen is it will prompt for GPS access on the phone, and they have to allow that on their phone for this part to work. All right. If I turn it all off, you can see that it says, hey, this is here. Do you want to have it? And I can simply click the begin setup. I can turn the time clock on and off with or without the GPS detection. So I can turn that back on. It's still there, but I just don't have the GPS enabled with it. Once I've turned this on, if I want to, I can simply use time reporting down here by exporting the time report for my team, and I can decide what dates I want to see that. All right, so once I've set all that up, I can simply go back to my schedule and see when we said the open shifts, it's this area right here. So I'm going to go back to settings and show you what this looks like. This is open shifts. If I turn this off, then what will happen is, refresh this. They won't be able to see this. Basically, there won't be anything there. I don't know why it's not updating. So let's go back to my settings. Just because I'm demoing. All right, I'm going to turn it back on so I know it works. Although we'll see. We'll see if it stays up with me. So this open shifts, that's what they won't be able to see. And on their phone, like when they try to go request a shift, that won't be available if you turn that off. So I see a question, can the time clock feature be somehow integrated with something like Workday? I've had that question before, and yes, behind the scenes, there are ways to basically make it happen, but it's going to be really clunky. I do know that they've made a few connectors for certain things. I haven't set up any of them, but I do know that there are some new connectors that will essentially allow you to do it behind the scenes. And I've heard of some people being able to do that. It's in the Teams Admin Center. There's some connectors there. All right, so once we've set up our stuff down here, we know that our groups are here. We know we've pulled our people in. There's a couple different ways to work with this after that. So we can create open shifts simply by clicking on the ... and going to open shift, or like I told you before, we can, I'm just clicking on one of these and right click and copy, and then I could paste it, or I can click on it like an Excel cell and I can drag it. Come on. Click. Click and drag. Just did this a few minutes ago. I don't know why it's being a pain. Okay, so see how you can select multiple when it wants to work. There we go. Come on. And it's just going to be a pain. I think it's because I'm sharing, and so it's a little slower. So anyways, you have to practice this. It works. Usually it's pretty easy. I think it's the sharing is slowing it down just a little bit. But either way, I can still copy it and paste just as easy. Or you can drag and you can select multiples. So if I want to grab all of these and then copy and then paste, it'll do all of them. So you can do a lot at once if you want to. You can see it a month at a glance, so you could actually put them all in here, and then you got to get it to this little hand thing. You can copy the whole month at a glance, copy that, and then go to the next month, and then simply paste it, and it'll pop it in there. So part of that is just kind of working with it and getting used to it. Like I said, it's built for simple. It's not built for fancy. So then I can manually assign these shifts to people. So if I click on the shift, it's going to show me what's in the shift. In this case, I've got this shift. I've got one slot available. I've got information around here. I can have a custom label instead of the time showing. I can add a break if I want to. I can add a shift note, and I can add activities. And remember, this is when we talked about, does it copy with the activities? So if I add an activity, I could say that they need to do certain things. Go back out of here. That one that's got activities in here. Nope. I had one that had activities in there. Nope. Weird. Okay. So showing it on there, but it's not popping up. Okay. So we can add an activity. So for example, I want them to do something from this time to this time. And I can say, yes, this is paid. Maybe I want to add lunch break. And I can give it a different color from 11 to 11:30, and they're not going to get paid for this. And then do something else from 12 to 1, and they will get paid for this. So you see how this is kind of working where I can put the activities in here, and notice how up here on the timeline it shows for their shift if they have things that they have to do during that time period that are very specific to this shift. And now I can say I want to assign this to somebody, so I click on the ... I can assign this shift. It will only pick the people that are in this group. So I want to assign this to me, or maybe I want to assign this to somebody else. And see how, because there's only one up here, it assigns it and now it's gone out of the open shifts. What you can do though is, let's say for example, I know that I need 5 people to do something that day. So notice that if I assign this to somebody, it will drop by 1. Oops. Oh wait. And now it only says 4. And if I assign it to another person, now it will only say 3. Because it's taking those slots and it's assigning them out to people. So it will keep track if you have like bulk schedules where you need to do something. Then it'll actually keep track of how many slots are available and how many slots are taken. After that, people can request to swap shifts. So this request option right here. So let's say, for example, I want to swap a shift with Jonathan. I can ask to swap a shift in the app with somebody else. And if that happens, it will come to the manager for review. Remember, I told you in the provisos, because all time blocks are equal, I want to swap my work shift with somebody else's sick day, and I'd rather be off than have to work. Now, obviously, we would train people, and if a manager saw this, they would say, no, you're not going to swap a work shift for an off shift. But they can select that, and what you would do is decide whether or not you want to approve this or not. In this case, I have requested from Jonathan. He would have to approve it first, and then it would go to the manager to be approved. Once that's happened, it then shows under the completed. And once that's been requested and approved, then it will show that it's been completed, and it'll show who approved it and if there's any notes associated with that. Okay, so going back to the schedule, and I know there's a lot and this is a short session, but the biggest thing after that is really knowing that up here on the right, if you're used to SharePoint or Teams, a lot of this works very similarly. So we've got our clock in and out option where we can export our timesheets as well up here. We can copy the schedule. This thing right here is really important. If I assign shifts, then there's an asterisk that says, hey, you've done this, you've saved it on the shift, but you haven't shared it out with the team yet. If you want to share this with your team, they won't know that you made a change to those shifts. You haven't added open shifts, you haven't moved shifts, you haven't assigned shifts until you click the Share with Team button. You can then decide how much do I want to share, and do I want to share it to everybody or only the people who have been impacted. And then once I do that, it'll note, see how these little asterisks, it'll note which days have been changed. And if I share it out, it will share those updates with those team members. It'll do that. And then it'll go out to people. All right. Another thing I can do up here is I can change the view. Maybe I only want to see a specific day. Maybe I want to see a week. or I want to go back to the month view. Let's go to, there we go. Now you can see this is what the week looks like, and this is what the day looks like. So I can see each of these shifts and I can see the specifics around it. I can print this just like regular printing. If I want to scale it, I can scale it. I can filter it down if I only want to see all active shifts. I want to see if there's any conflicts. Do I want to see if anybody's requested any time off? I can also just see certain groups. So right now I'm viewing all groups, but maybe I only want to see the after hours group because, you know, let's be honest, this is a very nice demo, but a lot of times these can get pretty big and unwieldy. Maybe I want to only see these two groups. So as I check them, it will add them back into my view. Maybe I only want to see shifts for certain people. And so I can drop that down. See how I can take these off and I only want to see my shifts. Or I want to see everybody's shifts and it'll bring them back. So the filter is kind of nice because I can look at that different ways. And then under the view, if I only want to see my shifts, all the team shifts, and see how I said you can see everything in one place. Maybe I want to view it by people. Maybe I want to view it the other way around. So now I can see the shift itself and I can see the people over here. So it looks a little bit different. Let's get back. See how there's no shifts time in those time ranges, but these have these shifts. And now I know there's 3 open on this day and 2 assigned. And then I can hide and show things down here. The last thing up here is this ... which allows us to view what's been shared, recall what's been shared, refresh the page, or export the schedule. So people ask me all the time, can you sync this with anything? No, you cannot, not out of the box. There's no sync. But what you can do is export the schedule. If you export the schedule, let's put this back to month. If I export the schedule, it really does come out in a nice format in Excel, which is real quick and easy, pretty painless. And see how nice this is? It shows the people, it shows the total hours, it shows the shifts right here. So if I needed to run a quick report or a quick export, it's pretty easy to do that. And then I can just save that and send that out. All right, I know we've only got a couple minutes left, and I've been letting you guys kind of ask questions along the way. I am going to pop back up this. If you want to do a survey and rate the session, definitely come to more sessions, share out things with the hashtags. If you have any other questions, I'll stick around for a couple more minutes and answer any questions that you have during the break.